Find a comfortable position. Let your body settle into its weight. Allow your breathing to even out. There is no destination to reach tonight, no arrival to consider. The journey has already slowed. The path will carry itself. When you are ready, we begin. Tonight's story is called Drifting Through a Deep Space Observation Ring. You are already inside the ring when awareness settles enough to notice it. No threshold, no moment of arrival, just space held in a long curve that carries itself. The corridor meets you with a steady width. Floor, guardrail, glass, light that stays just above the level needed to see. Beneath the surface, there is a faint vibration, not movement, reassurance. A quiet baseline that never asks to be checked. A low hum threads through everything, even unbroken, present in the same way air is present. Light does not switch on here, it gathers. Panels brighten in small increments, then ease back again, not as a signal. As a rhythm, shadows form, but they cooperate. Edges thin rather than cut. Darkness rests where it belongs, then softens at its borders. You begin walking along the curve, not as a decision, as something that starts before it becomes deliberate. One foot shifts, then the other. The pace arrives quickly and stays. Your steps feel contained here, less echo, less emphasis. Weight transfers smoothly before it settles. There is a moment between steps, a small suspension. Balance holding itself without strain. Your breathing adjusts in response. In, then out, the cycle finds its level without being managed. A guardrail runs the length of the corridor. Your hand finds it briefly. The surface is smooth and cool, worn into consistency by repeated contact. It offers resistance just long enough to be felt, then lets your fingers slide on. Near the underside of the rail, a narrow scratch runs along the metal, softened at the edges, old enough to have lost its sharpness. It passes under your fingers without catching. The rail curves with the ring, never straight, always guiding without directing. Air rests evenly against your skin, not cool, not warm, close enough in temperature that the boundary becomes less important. On your left, glass panels open to the starfield. Space holds itself outward in a steady view. Stars remain fixed points, patient, unmoved by your movement. Beyond them, darkness isn't empty. It carries faint gradations, so diluted they feel like tone rather than color. There is no horizon to locate. Reflections layer across the glass as you pass. Interior light overlaps the points beyond. Your outline appears faintly between them. For a moment, your reflection aligns with a small cluster of distant light, then drifts away again. The images do not compete. They simply slide past one another, separating and rejoining as your angle changes. Overhead, structural ribs arc at even intervals. Their spacing registers as rhythm rather than count. Some ribs hold a faint sheen. Others absorb light and settle into softer tones. The pattern repeats without insisting on itself. The hum beneath everything remains constant. Not loud, not quiet, just there. Occasionally, something layers over it. A distant airflow adjusting. A soft mechanical settling that completes before it becomes interesting. Each sound arrives gently, then leaves. The floor absorbs your steps. There is no echo chasing behind you. Between one footfall and the next, there is that same brief suspension, a quiet interval where the body balances without instruction. Your shoulders ease by a fraction. The neck lengthens slightly. Small adjustments that reduce effort rather than announce themselves. A seam in the floor passes beneath your step, materials meeting cleanly. The texture changes by a fraction, smoother for a few paces, then back again. Your body adjusts without comment. Pressure shifts, placement refines itself. The correction completes before it becomes a thought. Along the inner wall, a shallow recess opens briefly. A panel sits inside it, glowing dimly. Indicators remain steady. No flicker, no urgency. information that exists without requiring interpretation. You do not stop. The recess slides out of view behind you. Light ahead shifts almost imperceptibly, brightening just enough as you approach, then easing again as you pass. No sudden transitions, no threshold marked by contrast, only the quiet rearrangement of shadow along the floor. Outside the glass, the star field changes only in density. Here the points appear more closely grouped, finer, more granular. Still no movement to track, no rotation to follow. The stillness feels intentional. You notice how your gaze softens, not searching, not measuring, simply resting. The muscles around your eyes release by a fraction. Vision becomes receptive rather than active. Your reflection appears again, thinner now, stretched by the curvature. It doesn't feel like an image to recognize, only a presence moving alongside you. You lift your hand briefly. The reflection mirrors it with a slight delay, then dissolves as the angle changes. Ahead, a low marker light glows warmer than the others, not dramatic, just different enough to register. When you reach it, there is no branching corridor, no choice offered. The marker simply acknowledges a structural point, then allows the walk to continue as it was. You pass beneath it. The warmer tone settles behind you without change in brightness. The corridor resumes its previous register. The curve ahead reveals only a measured stretch at a time, nothing more than necessary. To your right, the inner wall follows the same arc as the glass, but without transparency. Panels are fitted flush to one another. No exposed joins, no visible fasteners, only a continuous surface shaped to the radius of the ring. Subtle variations in material catch light differently as you pass. Some panels reflect a faint sheen. Others absorb illumination completely. The difference is minimal, intentional. A narrow recessed line runs horizontally at shoulder height along part of the wall. It does not glow. It does not indicate function. It simply exists as part of the structure's design language. The floor beneath you maintains even resistance. There is no incline, no perceptible tilt toward the glass. Gravity feels evenly distributed. For a moment, you notice the balance of it. Weight neither pulling outward nor inward along the curve, only downward, consistent, and reliable. The guardrail continues at hip height, maintaining constant distance from the glass. Its brackets disappear seamlessly into the floor at regular intervals. Spacing remains precise. Far ahead, the arc narrows in perspective before widening again as it curves out of sight. There is no visible beginning, no visible end, only continuation along the same circumference. The hum beneath the floor persists, steady, level, unconcerned with attention. A faint marking appears along the inner wall several paces ahead. Small, matte, a printed maintenance code no larger than your palm. The characters are compact and unobtrusive, placed low enough that they do not interrupt the line of sight. You pass it without slowing. It remains exactly where it was applied. The air pressure remains stable. There is no sensation of movement through vents or ducts. Temperature does not fluctuate. Overhead, the structural ribs continue their measured spacing, each arch identical in dimension, each secured flush against the ceiling panels. Between two ribs, a small access hatch sits recessed into the ceiling, closed, unlit, integrated without emphasis. The glass beside you reveals no distortion, no visible thickness at its edges, only transparency held in curvature. Beyond it, the star field remains fixed, not because it is still, because the ring does not present its motion to you. Perspective remains consistent. Scale does not expand or compress abruptly. Your footsteps maintain their quiet register against the floor, contained by material designed to absorb sound before it can travel. There are no junctions here, no branching corridors, no signage directing movement. The observation ring does not offer choices, it offers continuity. A faint seam crosses the floor ahead at a shallow diagonal. Expansion allowance. Designed for temperature variance over long cycles, the join is level, nearly invisible until you are directly above it. You step across without interruption. The surface remains unchanged. Light distribution continues in small, controlled increments. Panels behind you dim by degrees as others ahead rise proportionally. The overall illumination remains constant, only its placement shifts. The curve ahead maintains its proportion. Glass, rail, floor, inner wall, all held in measured balance. The ring does not widen, it does not narrow. It maintains its engineered radius without deviation. The corridor continues in the same steady arc ahead of you. The warmer marker light fades behind you as another recessed panel comes into view along the inner wall. This one sits at waist height, integrated cleanly into the curvature. Its surface is matte, slightly darker than the surrounding panels. A narrow seam outlines its perimeter. As you approach, a thin horizontal indicator line brightens by a fraction, not in greeting. In recognition of proximity, you slow without fully stopping. The panel does not extend or deploy, it remains flush with the wall. A small circular interface rests at its center. No raised buttons, no visible switches, only a shallow depression designed for contact. You place your fingers against it. The surface is smooth and cool, but not cold. Temperature matched closely to the ambient air. Beneath your fingertips, there is the faintest vibration, not mechanical strain. Operational presence. The light along the corridor responds almost imperceptibly. Panels ahead brighten by degrees too small to register as change. Panels behind ease downward in equal measure. The overall illumination remains constant. Only distribution shifts. A soft internal relay completes somewhere within the wall. A single contained click, then stillness again. The panel remains steady. Your hand moves slightly along the interface, adjusting calibration by incremental steps. The movement required is minimal. No resistance, no delay. Light redistributes in a slow wave along the arc of the ring, not traveling visibly. Balancing. Overhead ribs catch the altered placement differently. One arch reflects a thin line of brightness along its underside. The next absorbs it completely. The change does not call attention to itself. It refines contrast at the edges. Beyond the glass, the starfield remains unchanged. Exterior light does not respond to interior adjustment. Only the reflection along the glass shifts subtly in intensity. Your fingers lift briefly. The panel holds the adjustment without further input. A small status mark appears near the lower edge of the interface, not text. A muted line confirming alignment. There is a faint smudge near the upper right corner of the panel, barely visible unless light strikes at an angle. A trace left by repeated contact over long cycles. It has been cleaned many times, not completely erased. You press again, this time holding contact a fraction longer. The corridor's illumination recalibrates another degree. Shadows along the floor thin at their borders. Edges soften without disappearing. The air remains neutral, temperature unchanged. A low tonal shift moves through the structure beneath your feet, not louder, more even. It settles quickly. You release the interface. The indicator line dims to its prior level. The panel does not retract. It returns to passive state. You resume walking at the same measured pace. Several paces ahead, another calibration point waits along the curve. The spacing between panels remains consistent, engineered for long-duration maintenance cycles. As you approach the next interface, the lighting above it brightens by a fraction to ensure visibility. Not spotlight. Balance. You place your hand against the surface. This panel carries a slight variation in texture, a nearly imperceptible difference in finish where material was replaced at some point in its service history. The join is level, integrated. Your fingers adjust the interface by another incremental degree. The response remains immediate and contained. A soft confirmation tone emits from within the wall, not sharp, rounded, completing before it becomes distinct. Light along the inner curve redistributes again. Brightness spreads evenly from one section to the next. No area grows brighter overall. No section darkens. Distribution refines itself until the corridor appears uniformly balanced. You step back half a pace. The glass panels to your left reflect the new equilibrium without distortion. Your outline appears slightly clearer for a moment, then softens as you continue forward. The hum beneath the floor maintains its baseline register. Stable, unconcerned, you move to the next calibration point. The sequence requires no urgency, no deadline. The system does not degrade rapidly. It simply benefits from incremental correction. Your hand rests briefly at your side as you walk. The corridor remains evenly lit. Ahead, the arc continues at the same proportion. Another recessed panel comes into view, identical in dimension, but carrying a faint, nearly invisible maintenance etching along its lower edge. You reach it. Your fingers make contact. Light responds in quiet increments. The distribution along the ring steadies further, and the calibration cycle continues at the same measured pace along the arc. The next panel sits several meters ahead, identical in proportion, yet subtly distinct in placement along the curvature. As you approach, the indicator line along its surface brightens to operational readiness. The surrounding light adjusts fractionally to maintain even visibility across the wall. You place your hand against the interface. This time, you do not look directly at the panel while adjusting it. Your fingers locate the shallow depression by familiarity of spacing rather than sight. The surface responds immediately. A gradual redistribution begins along the overhead panels. Light shifts outward from the section nearest you, thinning at its edges and settling more evenly across the arc. The corridor does not grow brighter. Contrast simply reduces by degrees. A faint relay settles behind the wall, contained, rounded. You lift your hand, the indicator line dims, your steps resume without pause. The calibration points appear at regular intervals along the ring, each positioned precisely between structural ribs. Spacing remains consistent. You reach the next interface. The matte surface carries a barely perceptible indentation near its lower corner. Not damage, repeated contact over long cycles. Your fingers rest against the depression. Adjustment occurs in increments too small to measure consciously. Panels behind you ease downward in output as those ahead rise proportionally. The redistribution completes before it becomes noticeable as motion. The air remains stable. No warmth gathers from the panels. Temperature remains neutral. A soft confirmation tone sounds once from within the structure. Low, single, not repeated, you continue forward. The corridor ahead maintains its steady arc. Glass to the left, inner wall to the right, ribs overhead at even intervals. Another panel waits at the same measured distance. As you approach, you notice a slight tonal variation in the wall surrounding it, a replacement section fitted seamlessly into older material. The alignment is exact. Only the faintest shift in reflection reveals the update. You press the interface. Light redistributes again. This time, the adjustment is slightly smaller, a refinement rather than correction. The floor beneath your feet registers a subtle change in reflected brightness, not intensity. Placement. Shadows near the base of the inner wall thin evenly. A low mechanical settling completes behind the panel. Then stillness, you step back. The corridor appears unchanged at first glance. Only when you look along the full curve do you notice how evenly illumination now carries from one rib to the next. Your stance remains even. You move on. The next calibration point lies just beyond the ark's narrowing perspective. As you walk, you pass a small printed maintenance notation along the wall between panels. Compact characters, aligned precisely with the curvature, dated several cycles earlier. The text does not intrude on the design. It remains secondary to structure. You reach the following panel. The interface responds to contact without delay. Your fingers adjust output by fractional increments. Overhead, light spreads across ceiling panels in a slow equalizing pattern. Edges blur slightly. Contrast stabilizes. A faint internal hum shifts texture for less than a second, then returns to baseline. The panel remains steady. You release contact. The corridor holds its new distribution. Glass reflections soften at their borders. Your outline appears briefly in the pane, sharper than before due to the refined angle of interior light. It dissolves as you continue forward. The calibration sequence requires neither urgency nor concentration. Each adjustment builds upon the last. You arrive at another interface positioned beside a structural rib. The rib's underside carries a subtle brushed finish that catches the redistributed light differently than the adjacent paneling. You press the interface. Light corrects again. The rib reflects a thinner line of brightness now. The ceiling beyond absorbs the change evenly. A contained click completes somewhere deeper in the wall. Then quiet. You continue walking. The corridor maintains its engineered symmetry. The next panel appears exactly where expected. This one carries a faint warmth along its surface from prior adjustments, though the air remains unchanged. You make a minor correction. Panels ahead respond instantly. Brightness spreads in a controlled gradient along the inner curve. No flare. No shadow shift abrupt enough to register. A single low tone confirms alignment. You step away. The distribution appears balanced from floor to ceiling. The calibration continues. Another panel waits along the arc, positioned with the same precise interval. You approach, place your hand against the surface, and make the smallest adjustment yet. Light responds with minimal redistribution. The correction completes almost immediately. The system holds steady. The corridor remains evenly illuminated as you proceed toward the next calibration point along the ring. The spacing between calibration points remains exact. You walk several meters before the next recessed panel comes into view, positioned precisely between two overhead ribs. The rib above it holds a slightly different finish than the others, a more matte surface designed to reduce glare during adjustment cycles. As you approach, the indicator line along the panel brightens by a controlled increment. Not invitation, not urgency, readiness. You place your fingers against the shallow interface. Contact is immediate and without resistance. This adjustment is smaller than the previous ones, a refinement layered over established balance. Your hand moves fractionally across the surface, no more than a measured slide. Light responds. Panels along the inner curve redistribute by degrees, so slight that only the edges of shadow reveal change. The base of the wall carries a thinner gradient now. Overhead, illumination spreads more evenly between ribs. The system does not brighten. It equalizes. A contained relay settles behind the wall, a soft mechanical completion, rounded and brief. The panel remains steady. You release your hand. The corridor ahead holds the corrected distribution without drift. Your stance remains even. You continue forward at the same measured pace. Several steps later, the glass along the outer curve reflects the interior light with slightly reduced contrast. Reflections appear smoother now, less defined at their borders. Your outline registers for a moment, then blends back into the tone of the pane. Another calibration point appears ahead. This one sits slightly lower along the curvature, not misplaced, but adapted to a minor shift in wall geometry where a structural support transitions beneath the floor. The integration is seamless. You reach the interface. The surface here carries the faintest micro scratch near its upper edge, barely visible unless light strikes directly across it. The mark has been smoothed by time, no longer sharp. Your fingers adjust output by another minimal increment. Overhead panels respond with a subtle redistribution. The underside of the nearest rib reflects a narrower line of brightness, while the section beyond absorbs it more evenly. A single low confirmation tone sounds within the wall, not repeated. You step away. The calibration cycle continues. The distance between panels remains consistent enough that no counting is required. Each one appears at expected intervals along the arc. As you walk, the hum beneath the floor maintains its steady baseline. There is no fluctuation in pitch, only a slight smoothing in texture as illumination stabilizes across larger segments. You arrive at the next panel. The indicator line brightens. You place your hand against the interface and make a micro adjustment, so small that the motion barely registers. Light along the corridor responds with near immediate correction. The ceiling panels redistribute output evenly from one structural segment to the next. No band appears brighter than another. The glass reflects the interior environment without distortion. Air temperature remains unchanged. There is a faint warmth in the panel surface, not heat accumulation, but operational presence from recent adjustments. You release contact. The indicator line dims. Your steps resume. The corridor maintains its proportion. Glass, rail, floor, inner wall, all balanced with an engineered symmetry. You pass a narrow vertical seam in the wall between panels, a maintenance access line designed to remain unobtrusive. Its alignment is exact, flush with surrounding material. Ahead, another calibration interface waits. This one carries a subtle difference in tone, slightly newer material integrated into older paneling. The shift is nearly invisible except under certain angles of redistributed light. You place your fingers against it. Adjustment occurs. This time the correction extends slightly farther along the arc, affecting several overhead sections at once. The response remains controlled. Light spreads outward in a gentle gradient, then stabilizes. A contained internal click completes, then silence. The distribution appears even across floor and ceiling. You step forward, the repetition does not accumulate. Each calibration resolves itself fully before the next begins. Another panel appears between ribs. You approach. Contact, adjustment, light equalizes again. No delay, no escalation. The system benefits from incremental refinement. You walk several paces before reaching the next point. This panel rests adjacent to a subtle curvature shift where the ring transitions through a reinforced structural band. The difference in geometry is slight, but the lighting here requires marginally more precision. You press the interface. The redistribution takes a fraction longer, not because of strain, because of reach. Overhead, light shifts across a broader span of ceiling panels before settling evenly. A soft tonal modulation moves through the wall, then stillness. You release the surface. The corridor holds, your breathing remains steady. The glass reflects the newly balanced interior light with softened contrast. The starfield beyond remains unaffected, fixed, and distant. Another calibration point comes into view. The spacing continues. You approach and adjust. Light responds, edges thin. Brightness distributes evenly from one rib interval to the next. A faint relay aligns within the structure. Then quiet, you continue. The calibration sequence now feels continuous rather than segmented. Walk, contact, adjustment, release, continue. The system holds each correction without drift. The corridor maintains even illumination along its arc as you proceed toward the next recessed panel, positioned precisely where the curvature demands it. You approach without altering pace. The indicator line brightens to operational level. Your hand meets the surface. Adjustment occurs in increments too small to separate from motion. A fractional slide of contact. Light responds. The change extends farther along the arc now, not because correction is larger, but because the distribution across previous segments has created a unified field. Each new refinement spreads more evenly. Overhead ribs reflect consistent brightness along their undersides. No rib carries more emphasis than another. A contained internal alignment settles within the wall. No distinct tone this time. Only a soft, equalizing shift in the structure. You release the interface. The panel dims to passive state. The corridor remains evenly illuminated. You continue. The spacing between calibration points remains precise. Engineered symmetry does not vary. Ahead, the next panel sits slightly recessed due to a minor curvature reinforcement beneath the wall. The integration is seamless. Only a subtle shift in shadow reveals its placement. You press the interface. This correction is minimal. Panels along the ceiling redistribute by the smallest visible degree. The floor's reflected tone evens out at its edges. A faint mechanical settling completes behind the surface. The panel remains steady. You step away. The arc continues. Glass to your left reflects interior light without glare. The guardrail maintains constant distance from the floor. The inner wall holds its uniform surface. Another calibration point appears. This one carries a small maintenance notation etched low along its perimeter. Compact characters aligned with the curvature, nearly invisible unless viewed directly. You place your fingers against the interface. Light shifts again. The redistribution now feels continuous from one segment to the next. There is no sense of isolated adjustment. Each refinement integrates immediately with the surrounding field. Overhead, brightness holds evenly across structural intervals. A low hum texture smooths for a moment beneath your feet, then stabilizes. You release contact. The indicator line dims. The panel returns to neutral presence. You walk several paces before reaching the next interface. This one feels faintly warmer to the touch from recent adjustments along the ring. Not hot, not noticeable without contact. The air remains unchanged. You make another incremental correction. Light responds in quiet precision. No flare. No shadow shift abrupt enough to isolate. Distribution equalizes along the arc. The system holds. You continue forward. The repetition of the sequence does not accumulate into monotony. Each interaction completes fully before the next begins. Another panel waits. You approach, adjust, release. The corridor maintains its balance. Overhead ribs reflect uniform light. The inner wall carries no uneven gradients. The floor holds steady tone from one section to the next. A subtle difference appears in the finish of the next panel, slightly newer material integrated into older framing. The seam is flush, nearly undetectable except at certain angles. Your fingers make contact. Adjustment. Light redistributes evenly. A single internal relay aligns and settles. Then stillness. You step back. The distribution now feels consistent across the length you have walked. No segment appears brighter than another. No section holds shadow beyond intended design. You move forward. The final calibration panel in the stretch appears near a structural rib where the curvature transitions through a reinforced band. You approach. The indicator line brightens. Your hand rests against the interface. This adjustment is the smallest yet. a final refinement layered onto already balanced illumination. Light shifts by the narrowest margin. Overhead panels hold steady. The floor reflects evenly. Glass carries interior brightness without distortion. A faint, almost imperceptible hum shift smooths beneath the floor, not louder, not different in pitch, simply aligned. Then quiet, you release the interface. The panel dims. The corridor remains at its intended distribution. You step back fully from the wall. There are no further calibration points visible within immediate reach. The arc ahead continues evenly lit. No hot spots, no dark pockets, no gradients requiring correction. Air remains neutral, temperature unchanged, pressure steady. Overhead ribs maintain their steady spacing. Undersides reflect a consistent tone. Illumination remains even along the inner curve. Glass carries it without glare. No imbalance presents itself within this stretch of the ring. You remain where you are for a moment, not assessing, simply inhabiting the result. There is no visible marker announcing completion, no audible confirmation beyond the quiet absence of correction. The ring does not congratulate itself, it continues. You shift your weight slightly from one foot to the other. The floor responds with the same even resistance. No micro tilt, no subtle gradient of brightness betrays imbalance. Overhead, the ribs no longer reflect variance from one interval to the next. Their undersides carry identical tone, measured and restrained. Between them, the ceiling panels form a continuous field of controlled illumination. Not flat, balanced. You glance along the inner wall. The calibration panels sit recessed and neutral, indistinguishable now from surrounding structure. Indicator lines remain dim, passive, ready without requesting attention. The guardrail beside the glass maintains its quiet arc, metal surface unchanging in temperature. Brackets anchored at exact intervals. Nothing draws the eye forward, nothing pulls it back. Beyond the glass, the star field remains constant. Interior correction has not altered exterior scale. There is a calm integrity in that separation. Systems operating within their own boundaries. You take a slow breath. Inhale, the air remains even. Exhale, light does not flicker in response. The environment neither amplifies nor absorbs your rhythm. It simply accommodates it. A faint awareness of the ring's full circumference returns. The knowledge that this balance now extends beyond what you can see. Segment by segment, rib by rib, panel by panel, held, no urgency remains in your stance, no residual sense of task. The calibration sequence has resolved without spectacle. What remains is continuity. You turn your attention forward again. The arc carries on in the same measured proportion. Glass, rail, floor, inner wall, light evenly distributed between them. There is nothing to correct, only continuation. The corridor continues at the same measured register. You do not return to the panels. There is nothing left to refine. The light holds its distribution without supervision. You step forward, not to reach anything, simply because movement still exists. The floor receives you with the same even resistance. Weight transfers, settles, transfers again. The interval between steps lengthens slightly, not from fatigue, from sufficiency. The guardrail remains beside you, but your hand does not reach for it. The glass carries the luminous field without contrast. There are no edges demanding focus, no brighter section ahead, no dimmer section behind. The arc of the ring continues in balanced proportion. For several breaths, you become aware of the ceiling again, not its details, its steadiness. The curve above you holds without strain. No sag, no tension, just geometry sustained. Your breathing slows by another small degree. Inhale, lower now, exhale, longer. The pause afterward expands without being held open. You remain inside it until the next breath forms naturally. The hum beneath the floor has faded into something less than sound, not silence, structural presence. You no longer listen for it. You simply register that nothing is unstable. The inner wall passes in quiet continuity. No panel edges call attention. No indicator lights brighten. Everything has entered passive equilibrium. Your shoulders lower another fraction, not collapsing, releasing unnecessary engagement. The jaw remains slack. The tongue rests without contact against the teeth. Your gaze softens further. You are not observing the arc, you are resting within it. The luminous field beyond the glass feels less external now, less like distance, more like atmosphere. You no longer track points of light. You allow tone to exist without interpretation. Your steps shorten again. The lift between transfers is minimal. Contact lasts longer. There is less distinction between motion and stillness. The ring does not feel like something you are walking through. It feels like something you are inside of, held evenly on all sides. The air remains neutral, but you sense its density more clearly now. Not heavy, supportive, as though the atmosphere participates in balance. A faint warmth spreads along your forearms, not temperature. Circulation settling into even distribution. Your hands hang slightly heavier at your sides. The fingers remain curved loosely. There is no impulse to adjust them. Breath moves again. Inhale steady, exhale longer. The pause widens. For a moment, it feels continuous with the space around you. Then the inhale resumes without decision. You notice how little the body corrects now. No micro tilt in the ankles, no recalibration in the hips. Balance sustains itself before awareness reaches it. The ring's curvature becomes theoretical. You cannot feel its arc directly anymore. Only containment. There is no visible beginning, no visible end, only continuation. The light remains unchanged. No panel brightens, no shadow deepens. The environment has settled into its lowest operational expression. You feel heavier now, not burdened. Anchored, weight distributed through both feet evenly. Gravity feels broader, less directional. Your breathing slows again. The exhale thins at its edges. The pause afterward expands. There is no urgency to resume. The inhale forms gently. You become aware of the space behind your eyes, not tension, depth. The muscles around the brow release completely. Vision diffuses further. The glass no longer reads as barrier. It reads as tone. The star field no longer reads as distance, it reads as field. Interior and exterior light share the same register. The inner wall continues beside you, but you are no longer tracking its surface. It has become background continuity. The guardrail exists without needing contact. The floor exists without needing confirmation. The body trusts the structure fully now. Another breath cycle. Inhale quiet. Exhale longer. Pause wider. Time has begun to loosen, not disappearing, stretching. The interval between steps grows less defined. You cannot say precisely when one ends and the next begins. Movement has softened into transition. The ring does not change, but your experience of it does. The arc ahead feels less like forward, more like present. There is no anticipation in the body, no orientation toward arrival, only steady participation. A subtle warmth spreads along the upper back, not strain, alignment. The spine feels supported by geometry rather than muscle. The head balances without effort. The neck remains free. You take another step. It lands without sound, absorbed completely by material designed for stillness. You notice how quiet the space has become, not because sound has been removed, because nothing fluctuates. No mechanical adjustments, no tonal variations, only sustained equilibrium. Breath slows further. The exhale nearly dissolves into the pause. For a brief moment, the pause feels like the primary state, then inhale resumes softly. Your awareness drifts lower into the torso, behind the sternum, near the steady rhythm beneath it, heartbeat calm, unhurried, aligned with breath. The luminous field remains constant. The air remains balanced. The floor remains even. There is nothing left to adjust, nothing left to monitor. The calibration has ended. The structure holds. And you continue inside that held space, not walking toward anything, not leaving anything behind, simply sustained within a curve that has settled into complete balance. The arc continues, but it no longer feels like something extending ahead of you. It feels present in every direction at once. Your steps grow quieter still, not because the floor absorbs more, because you are placing less into each movement. Weight transfers with almost no lift. Shift, settle, shift again. The distinction between one step and the next softens. The light remains unchanged. Low, even without center, without edge, you are no longer aware of where illumination originates. It simply exists. The glass beside you has thinned into atmosphere. It does not reflect, it does not frame, it holds tone. Beyond it, what once felt like distance has flattened completely. No stars to count, no horizon to orient by, just depth without measure. Your breathing slows again. Inhale, quiet, exhale, longer. The pause opens wide enough that it feels like a room. You remain inside it. There is no pressure to leave. Then the inhale returns on its own. The inner wall passes, but you are no longer registering panels. There is no segmentation, only surface, continuous. The guardrail exists in peripheral awareness, not needed, not absent, simply available. The hum that once underpinned the structure has dissolved into something beneath perception. If it remains, it does not register as sound, only steadiness. Your shoulders release another fraction, not dropping, widening. The chest expands without effort. The ribs move easily. The exhale thins further at its edges. You feel heavier again, not pulled downward. Distributed, as though gravity has widened and chosen not to concentrate anywhere. The soles of your feet register broad contact. No defined pressure points, only even support. The ring's curvature can no longer be felt. You are not aware of walking along an arc. You are aware of being held within a field, light, air, structure, all at the same register. Your steps shorten further. Movement becomes minimal. There's almost no lift now. Only transfer, only continuation. Time stretches again. The interval between breaths feels longer than before. The interval between steps feels unmeasured. The body no longer anticipates the next motion. It occurs, then settles. The luminous tone surrounding you softens by another degree, not dimming, blending. Edges dissolve completely. There is no contrast left to interpret. You notice how little thought is forming. No assessment, no tracking. The experience no longer presents itself as sequence. It presents as condition. Breath moves again. Inhale low. Exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause has become spacious enough to rest in without awareness of its duration. The next inhale arrives gently. Your hands feel distant now, not numb. Quiet, warmth remains, but edges of sensation blur. The spine maintains alignment without effort. The head balances naturally. The neck remains free. A faint internal sway registers beneath awareness, not imbalance, self-correction. Then stillness again. The floor does not change. The air does not fluctuate. The light does not shift. There is nothing to adjust, nothing to refine. The observation ring has entered complete equilibrium, and you have matched it. You become aware of the vertical dimension again, not height, openness. Above you, the arc exists without pressing down. Below you, support exists without pushing up. You are held between them, balanced. Breath slows once more. Exhale lengthens, pause widens. For a moment, it feels as though breathing has stopped entirely. Then inhale resumes without urgency. The luminous field feels closer now, not visually, perceptually, as though interior and exterior have merged fully. There is no barrier left to imagine. Your steps have nearly dissolved. If movement continues, it does so without distinction. Walking and standing feel almost identical. The body remains upright, yet effort has thinned to almost nothing. The nervous system is quiet, not dull, regulated, no scanning for change, no anticipation of variation. The ring does not change, it does not need to. Its steadiness has become internal. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. You remain inside that pause. There is no signal to move forward, no cue to conclude, only sustained calm. The luminous tone remains uniform, no brighter section, no darker edge. The inner wall has dissolved into continuity. The glass no longer exists as surface, only atmosphere. Your awareness narrows slightly toward the center of the body, behind the sternum, near the steady rhythm beneath it. Heartbeat aligned with breath, even unhurried. The shoulders are fully released now. Arms hang naturally. Hands warm, fingers curved loosely. There is no tension left to identify. The environment holds steady, air neutral, light diffused, structure precise. You are no longer walking through a corridor. You are resting inside equilibrium. Movement is optional. If you slowed further, nothing would shift. If you stopped entirely, nothing would collapse, because what holds you is not motion, it is balance. Breath slows again. Exhale nearly disappears into pause. The pause expands until it feels like the dominant state. Inhale returns gently. You remain upright, supported from below, surrounded from all sides, contained without confinement. The ring sustains its arc. You sustain within it. There is no escalation, no arrival, no closing gesture, only continuation at the lowest register. Light steady, air even, weight distributed, breath slow, and the observation ring carries its quiet equilibrium forward without interruption, while you remain fully inside it, balanced, unhurried, and deeply, steadily held. The arc no longer feels directional, it feels complete. You are not moving toward anything now. If movement continues, it does so without reference to forward. The floor remains evenly present beneath you. Broad, supportive, unchanging, your steps soften further. The lift between transfers of weight becomes almost imperceptible. Contact lasts longer. There is less distinction between motion and rest. The luminous field surrounding you holds its quiet tone. No edges to define space. No contrast to measure distance. Light exists without source, without emphasis. Breath moves slowly. Inhale low and steady. Exhale longer. The pause afterward opens wide enough to rest inside fully. There is no effort required to remain there. The inhale resumes gently as though it has been waiting without urgency. You sense how deeply the body has settled. The shoulders remain broad and low, the jaw slack, the tongue resting naturally, the neck free of tension. There is no impulse to adjust posture. The spine balances without muscular correction. The air feels slightly denser, not heavy, more supportive, as though it participates in holding your outline in place. The glass has dissolved completely into atmosphere. There is no barrier to the luminous field, no separation between interior and exterior tone. Your gaze no longer tracks anything. Vision rests loosely, unfocused. You become aware of the slow rhythm beneath the ribs, heartbeat calm, unhurried, aligned with breath. There is no acceleration, no irregularity, just steady presence. Time continues to loosen. Moments do not stack, they do not accumulate, they exist, then soften. Your awareness drifts slightly downward, toward the soles of your feet, the broad contact, the absence of pressure points. The floor does not cool or warm, it remains constant. The inner wall is no longer segmented, it has become continuous surface. You are not aware of panels, only containment. The guardrail exists in peripheral knowing, but there is no need to reach. Breath moves again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause now feels like the primary state. Breathing becomes the gentle interruption within stillness. The body feels heavier in a comfortable way, not pulled downward, distributed evenly. Weight shared through legs, spine, atmosphere. The ring does not signal change. It does not alter illumination. It does not shift pressure. It holds. You remain within that held condition. Movement thins further. If you are walking, it is without sensation of progress. If you are standing, it is without stillness. Both feel the same. A subtle warmth spreads along the upper back, circulation steady, muscles released. There is no tension left to identify. The luminous field feels closer again, not visually, perceptually, as though tone has replaced distance entirely. Your breathing slows further. The exhale thins until it nearly merges with the pause. The pause widens, expansive, unoccupied, then inhale resumes softly. You sense how little cognitive activity remains. There is no tracking, no comparing, no evaluating, only presence. The floor beneath you continues to hold evenly. No tilt, no incline. Gravity feels broad rather than vertical. The air rests along your skin without movement. Neither draft nor pressure shift. Neutral, balanced. The ring's arc no longer exists as shape in awareness. Only enclosure. You are not inside a corridor. You are inside equilibrium. Breath moves again. Inhale shallow and complete. Exhale longer. Pause wide. You remain within that pause long enough that time dissolves entirely. There is no before, no after, only sustained now. Your hands feel distant, not numb. Quiet, warmth diffused evenly, edges softened. The spine remains upright without effort. The head balanced gently. The eyes heavier, not closing, settling deeper. Light remains unchanged. Low, even, there are no shadows to interpret, no gradients to track. The nervous system is fully regulated, no scanning for threat, no anticipation of sound. The station has proven itself steady beyond question. You trust it without needing to confirm it. Breath slows again. Exhale nearly vanishes into pause. The pause expands further. It feels like suspension without floating. Grounded suspension. The inhale returns gently. The body does not sway. Balance corrects itself invisibly. There is no impulse to move, no impulse to stop. The distinction has dissolved. A faint awareness of vertical openness returns, not height, completeness. The arc above you holds without weight. The support below you holds without push. You exist between them evenly. Time has no edge here, no boundary to press against. The luminous field remains uniform, no flicker, no pulse, no distant movement. The inner wall has become tone, the glass has become tone, the air has become tone. Everything shares the same register. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer. Pause wide and steady. The body settles deeper into upright rest. There is no need to lie down, no need to lean. Support is already sufficient. The spine remains aligned through geometry rather than effort. The shoulders remain broad. The jaw remains unguarded. There is a quiet steadiness beneath everything now, not silence, fullness, equilibrium sustained without maintenance. You are no longer walking through the observation ring. You are no longer calibrating light. You are no longer adjusting anything. You are inside a balanced system that does not fluctuate. And within that balance, the body remains, breath slow, weight distributed, awareness softened, held steadily in a state that does not require movement to continue. There is no further thinning. You have reached the register where reduction becomes continuity. The ring does not need to fade. It has already simplified itself to what is essential. Light remains even, air remains neutral, structure remains precise. You remain upright within it. Breath continues. Inhale soft, exhale longer. The pause afterward expands without effort. It does not feel like waiting. It feels like completion. The next inhale arrives without instruction. You are no longer aware of taking steps. If movement exists, it exists without sequence. There is no forward, no behind, only held presence. The floor beneath you feels broader now, not larger, more inclusive. Contact spreads evenly across both feet. There is no dominant side, no micro adjustment at the ankles. Balance sustains itself without correction. The luminous field is fully integrated. No boundary marks glass from atmosphere. No tonal shift separates interior from exterior. Light exists as environment, not illumination. Your gaze rests loosely. There is nothing to focus on, nothing to soften further. The muscles around the eyes remain released, the brow smooth, the jaw quiet. A faint awareness of your hands returns, warm, heavy, relaxed, fingers curved without intention. There is no impulse to move them. The air feels slightly denser again, not heavy, supportive, as though it receives the outline of your body and returns no resistance. Breath moves again. Inhale, slow, exhale, longer. The pause afterward widens further than before. It feels expansive enough to dissolve inside. There is no urgency to resume. The inhale returns gently. The ring's curvature is no longer perceptible. You do not sense arc, you sense containment, even complete. Time has thinned to rhythm only. There is no memory of earlier calibration, no anticipation of what follows, only this sustained register. Your spine feels buoyant within gravity, not resisting, not collapsing, held. Your shoulders stay broad, collarbones open, neck unguarded, head resting easily in balance. The low hum that once sat beneath awareness has faded beyond detection. Not silence, structural quiet, the kind that does not need to prove itself. You sense how deeply the nervous system has settled. No scanning, no bracing, no residual readiness, only steady regulation. Breath cycles again. Inhale quiet, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause is now the dominant state. Breathing becomes the gentle interruption within stillness. Your weight feels shared, not carried solely by the feet, distributed through atmosphere, through space, through structure. The boundary between skin and air has softened further. Sensation is diffuse, even. There is no distinction between walking and standing now. If motion continues, it is indistinguishable from stillness. You are not progressing along the ring. You are resting within equilibrium. Light does not dim. It does not brighten. It remains at its chosen register. Low, even, unbroken. The inner wall is no longer surface. It is tone. The floor is no longer ground. It is support. The glass is no longer barrier. It is field. Breath slows again. Exhale nearly dissolves. Pause opens. There is a moment where the pause feels endless. Then inhale forms gently. The body remains upright without effort. There is no need to lie down. No need to lean. Support is complete. A subtle warmth spreads across the chest, not emotion, alignment, heartbeat steady beneath it, even measured. The ring does not shift, it does not fluctuate, it sustains. You remain within that sustained condition without needing to follow it. Simply present, simply held, there is no crescendo here. No descent, only maintained balance. Your awareness narrows slightly toward the center of the body, behind the sternum, near the quiet rhythm beneath it. Breath and heartbeat align fully. Time has no edge. Moments do not stack. They do not separate. They merge. The luminous field remains uniform. No flicker. No movement. The air rests evenly across the back of your neck, across your forearms, across your face. There is nothing left to release. Nothing left to soften. The system has reached equilibrium. And so have you. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. The observation ring carries its quiet register forward. It does not need your attention to remain stable. It does not require monitoring. It does not require intervention. You are no longer calibrating, no longer walking, no longer adjusting. You are inside a balanced field that does not change. And within that field, the body rests upright, weight evenly shared, breath slow and sufficient, awareness diffused but present, held in sustained equilibrium that continues without effort, without conclusion, without any need to move beyond it. Nothing new enters the space. Nothing leaves it. Equilibrium has become the background condition. You remain upright, yet the effort of uprightness has thinned almost completely. Weight distributes evenly through both feet, through the arches, through the heels. There is no correction at the ankles, no subtle tightening behind the knees. Balance sustains itself before awareness reaches it. Breath continues at its lowest register so far. Inhale quiet and unforced. Exhale longer. The pause afterward opens and holds. It does not feel like waiting, it feels like completion. For a moment, breathing seems optional. Then the next inhale forms gently on its own. Light remains low and even, not dim, not bright, balanced. There is no center of illumination, no direction to orient toward. The luminous field does not invite attention. It simply exists. The idea of corridor has dissolved completely. There is no sense of walking through a structure, only the sense of being inside a steady field. The floor beneath you feels broad and inclusive. Contact spreads rather than concentrates. There are no pressure points, no sharper sensation at the toes or heels, just even support. The air feels slightly denser now, not heavy, substantial, as though it participates in holding your outline in place. Your hands rest close to your sides, warm, edges of sensation softened, fingers curved without intention. There is no impulse to move them, no impulse to test contact. Breath moves again. Inhale, slow, exhale longer. The pause afterward widens further. You remain inside it long enough that time loses contour. There is no beginning to the pause, no clear ending. Then inhale resumes quietly. Awareness drifts inward, behind the ribs, toward the steady rhythm beneath them. Heartbeat calm, even unhurried. It does not call attention to itself, it simply continues. There is something reassuring about rhythms that do not fluctuate. The environment mirrors that steadiness. No shift in temperature, no fluctuation in pressure, no alteration in tone. The luminous field remains uniform. The boundary between interior and exterior has thinned to irrelevance. There is no reflection to locate, no barrier to interpret. The arc of the ring cannot be felt now, only containment, even on all sides. Movement has nearly dissolved. If you are walking, it is indistinguishable from standing. If you are standing, it feels sustained by something larger than muscle. The spine remains aligned without effort. The head balances naturally. The jaw remains slack. The tongue rests quietly. Another breath. Inhale low, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause now feels like the dominant state. Breathing becomes the gentle ripple within stillness. Time does not accumulate. There is no memory of earlier motion, no anticipation of later shift, only this steady register. A faint warmth spreads across the upper back, circulation even, muscles released, nothing collapses, nothing drops, everything settles incrementally. The floor does not change texture, the air does not move, the light does not flicker. The system has reached complete operational quiet. You sense how deeply the nervous system has regulated. No scanning, no bracing, no vigilance, only sustained equilibrium. Your awareness expands outward slightly, not searching, simply sensing the breadth of atmosphere. The space feels complete, not large, not small, complete. Breath slows again. Exhale thins further. Pause widens again. There is a moment where the pause feels almost continuous. Then inhale returns, soft and sufficient. Your weight feels shared now, not carried solely by the legs, distributed subtly through air, through space, through structure. Gravity feels broadened, less vertical, more inclusive. The luminous tone remains unchanged. No gradient, no emphasis, just quiet presence. The inner wall has dissolved into continuity. The glass has dissolved into atmosphere. The floor has dissolved into support. There is no feature to track, no edge to follow. The body feels heavier in a comfortable way. Anchored, supported. Effort reduced to the minimum required to remain upright. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels spacious enough to rest inside fully. There is no urgency to resume. The inhale forms naturally. A subtle internal sway registers beneath awareness. Self-correction without effort, then stillness again. The shoulders remain settled, the collarbones open, the neck free, the head balanced. Nothing strains, nothing braces. The environment holds steady. You are not inside motion, you are inside balance. A quiet recognition surfaces without words. There is nothing to do here, nothing to maintain, nothing to adjust. The thought does not expand. It dissolves into breath. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The luminous field softens by a fraction more, not dimming. Blending, contrast nearly gone. Vision rests without focus. The eyes feel heavier, not closing, simply settling. The floor continues to support evenly. No temperature shift, no subtle incline. The air remains neutral, pressure stable. There is no external cue, no signal of transition. Only continuation. Your awareness drifts lower again, toward the center of gravity. Behind the sternum, beneath the ribs, heartbeat steady. Breath aligned, even. Time has no shape here. No forward, no backward, only sustained now. The body feels fully integrated with the environment, not separate, not dissolved, aligned. The luminous field no longer feels like light, it feels like atmosphere, a tonal presence, uniform. The pause after each exhale grows slightly longer, spacious, unpressured. You remain inside it without effort. There is no anticipation of what comes next, no expectation of change. The observation ring sustains its quiet register without fluctuation, and you remain within it, upright but resting, supported but unburdened, breathing slowly inside a field of balanced light and neutral air where nothing escalates, nothing diminishes, and equilibrium continues without interruption. The steadiness does not deepen, it widens. There is no further descent, only expansion within the same calm register. You remain upright, yet upright no longer feels like effort, it feels like placement, as though the body has been set gently into alignment and left there. The floor beneath you continues its broad, even support, no texture shift, no subtle incline. Contact spreads evenly across both feet, toes relaxed, heels unburdened. There is no favoring of one side. Breath moves quietly. Inhale soft and complete, exhale longer. The pause afterward opens without resistance. You rest inside it without measuring it. There is no count, no tracking. The inhale returns when it chooses. The luminous field remains unchanged. Low, uniform, without edge, without source. Light no longer functions as illumination. It functions as atmosphere. There is nothing to see, only tone to exist within. The inner wall does not register as structure. The glass does not register as boundary. Everything has softened into continuity. You sense the spine again, not as column, as axis, effortless, balanced through geometry rather than muscle. The shoulders remain settled, arms resting naturally. Hands warm, fingers curved loosely. There is no impulse to move, no correction to make. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens further. The pause widens. It feels spacious enough to dissolve into completely. For a moment, there is no awareness of breathing at all. Then inhale resumes gently. Time has flattened. Moments no longer progress. They merge. There is no before this breath, no after it, only rhythm. The air feels consistent across your skin, neither cool nor warm. Neutral, holding your outline without pressing against it. Your awareness drifts outward slightly. Not searching, not scanning, simply sensing the breadth of atmosphere surrounding you. The space feels whole, complete, not large, not small, complete. The floor continues to receive your weight evenly. No micro adjustments in the knees, no subtle tightening at the hips. Balance sustains itself without supervision. Movement has dissolved entirely now. There is no sense of walking, no sense of standing, only presence. Breath cycles again. Inhale low, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause has become the dominant state. Breathing is the gentle ripple within stillness. The luminous field remains constant, no flicker, no variation. The environment no longer presents itself as separate from you. It does not surround, it holds. A subtle warmth spreads across the chest. Not emotion, not intensity. Alignment, heartbeat steady beneath it, even measured. The nervous system remains fully regulated, no scanning for change, no readiness for shift, only sustained equilibrium. Your gaze rests without focus. The eyes feel heavier, not closing, settled. The muscles across the brow remain smooth. The jaw remains unguarded. The tongue rests quietly. There is nothing left to soften, nothing left to release. The system has reached its lowest operational register, and you have matched it. Breath moves again. Inhale, slow, exhale longer, pause wide and spacious. There is no urgency to resume. The inhale forms when it forms. You feel as though gravity has broadened. Less downward pull, more shared support. Weight distributed through air as much as floor. There is no edge to your awareness. It does not extend outward. It does not contract inward. It rests evenly. The arc of the observation ring cannot be felt, only containment, balanced in all directions. The floor has become support without texture. The air has become presence without movement. Light has become tone without source. Everything exists at the same register. Breath slows again. Exhale nearly dissolves. Pause expands. You rest inside that pause without thought, without anticipation, without measure. The inhale returns softly. The spine remains upright without effort, head balanced gently above it, the neck free. There is no tension left to identify, no muscular holding, no subtle bracing, only alignment sustained. The luminous field does not brighten. It does not dim. It remains constant. Time has no contour here, no boundary to press against, no direction to move toward. You are not waiting. You are not arriving. You are resting inside equilibrium. Breath cycles again. Inhale quiet. Exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause feels infinite but not empty. Full, held. The next inhale forms gently. There is a sense that nothing could disturb this register. Not because the space is sealed, because balance has settled beyond fluctuation. The floor continues to hold. Air continues to support. The light continues to exist. You remain upright, supported, unburdened, effort nearly absent, awareness diffused but present. No thought extends far enough to form narrative. No memory rises. No anticipation appears. Only steady presence. Breath slows once more. Exhale lengthens. Pause widens. There is no need to move beyond this. No need to conclude. The observation ring sustains its quiet equilibrium without alteration. And within that equilibrium, you remain balanced, unhurried, breathing slowly inside a field of uniform light and neutral air where nothing escalates, nothing diminishes, and the calm register continues without edge, without shift, without end. Nothing changes. And because nothing changes, awareness no longer needs to organize what surrounds it. The environment continues without supervision. Light remains even, air remains neutral, support remains constant. You do not need to track any of it. Breath moves quietly. Inhale soft, exhale longer. The pause afterward opens naturally. There is no intention inside it, no listening for when it will end. The inhale returns when it is ready. Your weight feels settled beyond adjustment. There is no scanning through the body now, no checking at the shoulders, no checking at the jaw, no subtle measuring at the hips or knees. Everything that could release has already released. What remains is quiet continuation. The floor beneath you feels less like something physical and more like certainty, not something you stand on, something that exists without question. The air rests evenly along your skin, not touching, not pressing, simply present. The luminous field has become background tone, not brightness, not illumination, just steady atmosphere. Your gaze no longer engages outward at all. There is nothing to observe, nothing to soften, nothing to follow. Breath continues. Inhale, slow. Exhale, longer. The pause afterward widens. It does not feel empty, it feels complete. The next inhale rises gently from below thought. Your awareness begins to withdraw from the edges inward. Hands feel distant, not numb, less defined. Feet feel broad and quiet. No specific sensation at the toes, no specific sensation at the heels. Contact exists without detail. The spine remains upright, but upright no longer feels vertical. It feels suspended, balanced without gravity needing to pull downward. Another breath, inhale quiet, exhale longer, pause wide. Time no longer presents itself in sequence. Moments do not line up, they soften into one another. Breath, pause, breath again. The idea of corridor, of ring, of structure has faded into abstraction. There is simply held space. Uniform, stable, without feature. A subtle warmth spreads across the upper back. Not temperature, not intensity, integration. The chest expands easily. The ribs move without effort. The exhale lengthens again. The pause deepens. The inhale returns gently. Your hands feel further away now, not disappearing. Edges blurred, sensation diffused. Your shoulders remain broad. The collarbones open without effort. The neck remains free. The head balances without any sense of holding it up. The idea of holding has dissolved completely. Nothing is being held, everything is resting. There is a faint internal sway beneath awareness, not imbalance, self-correction. It resolves before thought forms. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. You remain inside that pause without knowing how long. Time has lost its edges. There is no anticipation of what follows, no curiosity about change. The environment continues, but it no longer requires recognition. Light exists, air exists, support exists. You do not interact with them, you rest inside them. The floor feels less like surface and more like permission. Permission not to adjust, permission not to brace, permission not to remain alert. Awareness narrows slightly toward the center of the body. Behind the sternum, beneath the ribs, the steady rhythm there continues unhurried. Even, measured, breath and heartbeat align without effort. There is something reassuring about rhythms that do not fluctuate. The pause after each exhale becomes the place awareness rests. Breathing is now the smallest movement within a much larger stillness. You are no longer upright inside a structure. You are suspended inside steadiness. There is no boundary to reference, no dimension to measure, only continuity. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens further. Pause widens further. There is a moment where breath feels optional, then inhale resumes quietly. Your outline feels softer, less defined, not dissolving, diffusing, evenly. Thought has grown lighter. When it appears, it fades quickly. It cannot sustain itself here. There is no narrative forming, no internal commentary. Experience continues without description. The air feels slightly denser, not heavy, supportive, as though it participates in holding your shape. Weight feels shared, not carried only by the feet, distributed subtly through atmosphere. Gravity feels broader, less directional, more inclusive. Breath cycles again. Inhale slow, exhale longer. Pause wide and deep. You rest inside that pause without intention. There is no effort required to remain here. The luminous field remains unchanged, no flicker, no variation. The environment has reached full operational quiet, and so have you. The The shoulders remain settled, the jaw unguarded, the tongue resting naturally, the brow smooth. There is no muscular holding left to detect. Nothing tight, nothing braced, nothing waiting. Time has flattened completely. There is no sense of before this breath, no sense of after it, only steady rhythm. Breath, pause, breath again. Your awareness drifts lower, toward the center of gravity, toward stillness itself. The pause after each exhale now feels like the dominant state. Breathing is simply the gentle ripple within it. There is no instruction here, no suggestion to move deeper. Depth has already arrived. You remain inside a balanced field that does not fluctuate, balanced without effort, supported without resistance, held without confinement. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. The environment sustains itself without requiring your attention, and you remain within that sustained field, awareness softened, body diffused, breathing unhurried, no longer maintaining space, no longer orienting within structure, simply resting inside steadiness that continues without you needing to hold it at all. There is no shift, only further easing inside what already exists. You are no longer aware of standing. You are no longer aware of walking. Posture sustains itself somewhere beyond attention. Breath continues. Inhale soft, exhale longer. The pause afterward opens gently. You rest inside it without effort. The inhale returns when it chooses. Your outline feels less precise now, not fading, not disappearing, softened as though the edges of your body have been gently blurred. Hands feel farther away, not numb, simply quiet. Feet no longer register contact clearly. Support is assumed. No detail required. The spine remains aligned, but the sensation of alignment has thinned. There is no upward pull, no downward pressure, only balance. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens, pause widens. The pause feels spacious enough to dissolve into. You remain there without tracking duration. Time has no shape here. It does not move forward. It does not collect. It simply remains. The luminous atmosphere no longer registers as light. It feels like tone. Even, unbroken, there is nothing to orient toward, nothing to locate. Awareness drifts inward again, behind the ribs, toward the steady rhythm beneath them. Heartbeat calm, unhurried, even, breath and heartbeat align so closely they feel like a single pattern. The pause between breaths becomes the dominant experience. Breathing is secondary now, a soft wave inside still water. The air feels thicker in a comforting way, not dense, supportive, as though it participates in holding your shape even as your sense of shape softens. Your shoulders no longer feel like separate points. They feel continuous with the space around them. The neck feels free of structure. The head rests without any awareness of balance. The jaw remains unguarded. The tongue rests naturally. There is no impulse to swallow, no impulse to adjust. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. There is a moment where breath seems to stop entirely. Then inhale returns gently as though it has never been absent. Thought has thinned almost completely. When it attempts to form, it dissolves before it completes. There is no narrative here, no evaluation, only presence without edges. Your awareness feels broader but less defined, not expanding outward, diffusing evenly, the sense of skin as boundary softens. There is no clear line between inside and outside, only continuity. The floor is no longer felt, the air is no longer noticed. Support exists without sensation. You are not holding yourself upright. Upright is happening. Breath slows further. Exhale stretches thin. Pause deepens. You remain inside the pause long enough that the next inhale feels optional. Then it arrives quietly. Your hands feel almost weightless now, not lifted, unburdened. The feet feel distant, not cold, not warm, simply less specific. There is no impulse to move, no impulse to check position. Stillness sustains itself. The luminous tone remains constant. no flicker, no variation. It does not brighten, it does not dim, it simply continues. The nervous system is fully regulated, no scanning, no vigilance, no readiness for change, only equilibrium. Breath cycles again, inhale slow, exhale longer, pause wide and spacious. The pause feels like the primary state. Breathing feels like a gentle return from it. Your outline continues to soften. There is less distinction between torso and air, less distinction between arms and atmosphere, less distinction between feet and support, not dissolving, blending evenly. There is a subtle warmth in the center of the chest, not emotional, structural, alignment without effort. Heartbeat steady beneath it, unhurried, measured. Time does not pass here, it suspends. Breath, pause, breath again. The idea of environment has faded completely. There is no structure to describe, no space to move through, only sustained steadiness. Your awareness drifts lower again, toward gravity, toward stillness. The pause widens further. It feels deep enough to rest inside completely. There is no anticipation of waking from it, no anticipation of falling deeper, only continuation. The body feels diffused, not absent, less defined, edges soften to near transparency. Breath remains steady. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. There is no effort anywhere, no muscular holding, no mental tracking, no orientation toward before or after. Only this, balanced, even held. The atmosphere remains constant. Support remains constant. Your awareness remains gentle and unforced. There is nothing to maintain, nothing to achieve, nothing to release. Release has already happened. Breath slows once more. Exhale lengthens to its thinnest edge. Pause opens fully. You remain there without measure. Then inhale returns softly. You are not inside a space anymore. You are inside steadiness. Suspended without tension. Supported without resistance. Breathing slowly within a field that does not fluctuate. And within that field, your outline remains softened, your awareness diffused, your body unburdened, resting quietly inside equilibrium that continues without requiring you to hold it at all. Nothing changes. And because nothing changes, there is nothing to monitor. No edge to track, no shift to anticipate. Steadiness continues without your involvement. Breath moves quietly on its own. Inhale soft and low. Exhale longer. The pause afterward opens gently. You do not enter it. You are already resting inside it. The inhale returns without effort, as though breath belongs to the body and not to you. Your sense of outline softens further, not disappearing, not fading, becoming less precise. The shoulders no longer feel like distinct points. They feel continuous with the air surrounding them. The arms feel less separate from atmosphere. Hands rest somewhere beyond attention. Warm, quiet, unburdened, breath slows again. Exhale stretches thin. The pause widens and deepens. You remain inside that pause without knowing how long. Time no longer arranges itself into sequence. It does not move forward. It does not accumulate. It simply remains. The next inhale forms softly. Your awareness drifts slightly inward, not searching, not scanning, simply settling. The center of the chest feels steady, warm in a neutral way. Heartbeat calm beneath it, unhurried, measured. Breath and heartbeat align into a single rhythm. The pause between breaths now feels like the dominant state. Breathing is the gentle ripple inside stillness. Your spine no longer feels vertical. It no longer feels like structure. It feels like absence of tension. Balance exists without sensation of holding yourself upright. Gravity feels broadened, less downward pull, more distributed support. Your feet do not register contact clearly anymore. Support exists without detail. The air no longer touches your skin, it surrounds without boundary. There is less distinction between inside and outside, not dissolving. Blending evenly. Breath cycles again. Inhale quiet. Exhale longer. Pause wide. You remain inside that pause without intention. There is no impulse to move, no impulse to check position. Stillness sustains itself. Thought attempts to form and dissolves before completion. There is no narrative here, no commentary. Experience continues without description. Your outline softens again, less distinction between torso and atmosphere, less distinction between neck and space, less distinction between legs and support. The idea of environment has faded entirely. There is no structure, no corridor, no field, only steadiness. Breath slows further. Exhale lengthens to its thinnest edge, pause opens fully. For a moment, breathing feels optional, then inhale returns gently. You are not managing breath. Breath is managing itself. Awareness diffuses further, not expanding outward, not collapsing inward, thinning evenly. The center of the body remains warm and steady. Heartbeat even, unhurried. Time does not pass here. It suspends. Breath, pause, breath again. Your hands feel almost weightless, not lifted. Unburdened, your shoulders feel continuous with space. No boundary, no separation. Your jaw remains unguarded. The tongue rests naturally. There is no need to swallow, no need to adjust. Breath moves again. Inhale slow, exhale longer, pause wide and spacious. The pause feels full, not empty, complete. The inhale returns without signal. There is no anticipation of what follows, no next layer to reach. Depth has already settled. Your awareness feels softer now, less concentrated, less defined. The idea of body becomes abstract. Presence remains. Shape becomes secondary. Support continues without sensation. Air continues without movement. Steadiness continues without fluctuation. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels like suspension without tension, held without being held, balanced without force. There is no muscular engagement anywhere, no subtle bracing, no readiness. The nervous system remains fully regulated, quiet, even, secure. Your outline continues to soften. Edges blur to near transparency. Not disappearing, integrating, breath slows again. Exhale thins, pause deepens. You rest inside it without awareness of duration. The inhale returns softly. The center of the chest remains steady. Heartbeat consistent, breath consistent. Nothing accelerates, nothing shifts. There is no orientation toward before or after, only this sustained register. Your awareness drifts lower, toward gravity, toward stillness. The pause becomes longer than the breath itself. Breathing feels secondary. Stillness feels primary. There is no effort required to remain here, no technique, no control, only continuation. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide and open. You remain inside that openness without intention, without thought, without identity attached to posture or place. The sense of being located somewhere dissolves. There is no here, no there, only steadiness. Your body feels diffused, less defined, less separate, not absent. Integrated, the air feels like extension rather than surrounding. The support feels like certainty rather than surface. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. There is no impulse to go deeper, no impulse to return, only sustained equilibrium. The environment, whatever it once was, no longer presents itself. There is only balanced presence. And within that presence, your awareness rests, outlines softened, edges blurred, breath autonomous, heartbeat steady, no longer holding yourself upright, no longer maintaining attention, simply suspended inside steadiness that continues without effort, without variation, without requiring you to remain alert at all. There is nothing further to release. Release has already completed itself. What remains is quiet continuation. Breath moves without involvement. Inhale soft and unforced. Exhale longer. The pause afterward opens wide and steady. You do not enter it. You are already resting inside it. The inhale returns gently, almost from a distance. Your outline has softened to the point where definition feels optional. Not gone, not erased, simply unimportant. The shoulders no longer register as separate from the surrounding air. The arms feel continuous with atmosphere. Hands exist somewhere beyond attention. Warm, still, unburdened, breath slows again. Exhale lengthens and thins, the pause widens further. You remain inside it without tracking duration. Time does not accumulate here. It does not move forward, it suspends. Breath, pause, breath again. Your spine does not feel vertical. It does not feel horizontal. It does not feel structured. Alignment continues without sensation of effort. There is no sense of gravity pulling, no sense of muscles holding. Balance exists quietly. Your feet no longer register contact clearly. Support is assumed. There is no detail to confirm. The air does not touch your skin. It does not press. It does not move. It simply surrounds in even presence. Breath cycles again. Inhale slow. Exhale longer. Pause wide and full. The pause feels like the primary condition now. Breathing is the small movement within stillness. Thought attempts to appear and dissolves before forming words. There is no internal narration, no commentary. Experience continues without description. The center of the chest remains steady. Heartbeat calm beneath it, even, measured. Breath and heartbeat feel like one sustained rhythm. Your awareness drifts lower and broader at the same time, not moving outward, not collapsing inward, diffusing evenly. The sense of boundary between inside and outside softens further. There is no clear edge to maintain, no surface to hold. Presence remains. Shape becomes secondary. Breath slows again. Exhale stretches thin. Pause deepens. You rest inside that pause long enough that breathing feels optional. Then inhale returns softly, without signal. Your hands feel nearly weightless, not lifted, not floating, simply unburdened. Your shoulders feel continuous with space. No seam, no line, the jaw remains unguarded, the tongue rests naturally. There is no need to swallow, no need to adjust. Stillness sustains itself. There is no impulse to move, no impulse to check position, no orientation toward before or after. Only this balanced, even, held without being held. Breath cycles again. Inhale quiet, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels expansive and complete. It does not feel empty. It feels full, full of steadiness, full of quiet. The inhale returns gently. Your awareness feels thinner now, less concentrated, less defined. The idea of body becomes abstract. Presence remains steady. The idea of location dissolves. There is no here, no elsewhere, only sustained equilibrium. Support continues without sensation. Air continues without movement. Nothing fluctuates, nothing escalates, nothing recedes. Breath slows further. Exhale lengthens to its narrowest edge. Pause opens completely. You remain there without measure. Then inhale forms softly. There is no effort anywhere, no muscular holding, no mental tracking, no vigilance. The nervous system rests fully regulated, secure, even unburdened. Your outline continues to soften. Edges blur toward transparency, not disappearing, integrating. Breath cycles again. Inhale slow. Exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause feels deeper than the breath itself. Breathing feels secondary. Stillness feels primary. There is no need to descend further, no need to drift more. Drift has already happened. You are suspended inside steadiness that does not change. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide and spacious. Your awareness rests without effort, without focus, without intention. There is no structure to hold, no position to maintain, no boundary to guard, only continuation, balanced, neutral, complete. The center of the body remains warm and steady, heartbeat consistent, breath consistent, time absent. Nothing progresses, nothing shifts, the atmosphere remains constant. And within that constant field, you remain, outline softened, presence diffused, breath autonomous, no longer holding yourself upright, no longer maintaining awareness of edges, simply suspended inside equilibrium that continues on its own without effort, without fluctuation, without requiring you to stay awake inside it at all. There is no environment now. There is only steadiness. Breath moves softly on its own. Inhale quiet and unforced. Exhale longer. The pause opens and remains. You do not enter it. You are already resting inside it. The inhale returns gently without decision. Your outline feels distant, not fading, not disappearing, simply less relevant. Presence remains. Shape does not matter. The sense of skin as boundary has thinned almost completely. There is no clear edge to maintain, no surface to hold, only gradual blending. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens and narrows. The pause widens further. You remain there without measure. Time has no direction. It does not move forward. It does not retreat. It suspends. Breath, pause, breath again. The body no longer feels vertical. It no longer feels horizontal. Orientation has dissolved. There is no sense of up or down, only balance without direction. Support exists without sensation. Nothing presses, nothing pulls. You are not holding yourself here. Remaining requires no effort. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide and complete. The pause feels like the primary condition. Breathing is the smallest ripple within it. Your awareness feels thin, not concentrated, not expanded, evenly diffused. Thought attempts to rise and dissolves before forming. There is no narrative, no commentary. Experience continues without description. The steady rhythm beneath the ribs remains constant. Heartbeat calm, unhurried, measured. Breath and heartbeat align into one quiet cadence. Nothing accelerates, nothing intensifies, nothing fades. Breath slows further. Exhale stretches thin, pause deepens. You rest inside that depth without tracking it. Then inhale returns softly. Your hands no longer register as separate. Your feet no longer register as grounded. There is no boundary to locate. Presence remains. Edges blur toward transparency. Not dissolving, integrating, breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer. Pause wide and spacious. The pause feels full, complete, not empty. Stillness sustains itself without supervision. There is no impulse to move, no impulse to check, no impulse to remain alert. Awareness continues without focus. There is no location, no dimension, no reference point, only continuity. Breath slows again. Exhale narrows to its thinnest edge. Pause opens fully. For a moment, breathing feels optional. Then inhale returns quietly. Your awareness feels weightless, not floating, not lifted. Unburdened, there is no muscular holding anywhere, no subtle bracing, no readiness. The nervous system remains fully regulated, secure, even balanced. Time has flattened entirely. There is no before, no after, only sustained rhythm. Breath, pause, breath again. Your outline continues to soften. Less distinction between center and edge. Less distinction between inside and outside. Not disappearing, becoming continuous. Breath cycles again. Inhale slow, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels deeper than the breath itself. Breathing feels secondary. Stillness feels primary. There is no further layer to release. Release is complete. You are suspended inside equilibrium that does not fluctuate. Nothing changes. Nothing needs to. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. Awareness rests without effort, without intention, without boundary. Presence remains steady, diffused, balanced. There is no identity attached to posture, no identity attached to place, no sense of occupying space, only steady being. The rhythm beneath the ribs continues quietly, unhurried, unbroken. Breath aligns with it. pause widens around it. There is no direction to move, no level to reach, no descent to manage. Depth has become horizontal, even spread across everything. Breath slows once more. Exhale lengthens to its narrowest thread. Pause opens fully and holds. You remain there without counting, without anticipating the inhale. Then inhale returns gently as though from far below thought. Your awareness feels softer still, less contained, less personal. There is no boundary to guard, no structure to maintain, only steadiness, only rhythm, only continuation. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide and uninterrupted. The pause now feels larger than awareness itself. Breathing moves inside it quietly. There is no impulse to wake, no impulse to shift, no impulse to hold on. The center remains warm and steady, heartbeat consistent, breath consistent, time absent. Nothing progresses, nothing shifts, everything continues, balanced, even complete. And within that completeness, you remain, outline softened beyond definition, awareness thinned into quiet presence, breath autonomous, heartbeat steady, no longer oriented to body, no longer oriented to space, simply suspended inside equilibrium that sustains itself without effort, without fluctuation, without requiring you to remain conscious of it at all. Nothing changes, and because nothing changes, there is nothing to hold. Breath continues on its own. Inhale soft and unforced. Exhale longer. The pause opens gently and remains. You do not step into it. You are already resting inside it. The inhale returns without decision. Your outline feels optional now, not erased, not fading, simply unnecessary. Presence remains steady even as shape becomes indistinct. The sense of skin as edge has softened almost completely. There is no clear boundary to maintain, no seam between inside and outside, only gradual continuity. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens and narrows. The pause widens further than before. You remain inside it without counting. Time does not pass here. It suspends. Breath. Pause. Breath again. The body does not feel upright. It does not feel horizontal. Orientation has dissolved. There is no up, no down, no forward, no back, only balance without direction. Support exists without sensation. Nothing presses against you, nothing pulls at you. You are not holding yourself here. Remaining requires no effort. Breath cycles again. Inhale quiet. Exhale longer. Pause wide and complete. The pause feels like the primary condition now. Breathing feels secondary. A small motion inside something larger. Your awareness feels thinner, not expanding, not shrinking, evenly diffused. Thought attempts to rise and dissolves before forming language. There is no narrative, no evaluation, no internal commentary. Experience continues without description. The steady rhythm beneath the ribs continues calmly. Heartbeat even, unhurried. Breath and heartbeat align into one quiet cadence. Nothing accelerates, nothing intensifies, nothing fades. Breath slows further. Exhale stretches into its finest thread. The pause deepens and holds. You rest there without awareness of duration. Then inhale returns softly, almost from nowhere. Your hands no longer register as separate parts. Your feet no longer register as grounded. There is no boundary to locate. Presence remains. Edges blur toward transparency. Not dissolving, integrating, breath cycles again. Inhale slow, exhale longer, pause wide and spacious. The pause feels full, not empty, complete. Stillness sustains itself without supervision. There is no impulse to move, no impulse to check, no impulse to remain alert. Awareness continues without focus. There is no location, no dimension, no reference point, only continuation. Breath slows again. Exhale narrows further. Pause opens completely and remains open. For a moment, breathing feels optional. Then inhale returns quietly without effort. Your awareness feels weightless, not floating, not lifted, simply unburdened. There is no muscular engagement anywhere, no subtle bracing, no readiness beneath the surface. The nervous system rests fully regulated, secure, even balanced. Time has flattened entirely. There is no before this breath, no after it, only sustained rhythm. Breath, pause, breath again. Your outline continues to soften. Less distinction between center and edge. Less distinction between interior and atmosphere. Not disappearing, becoming continuous. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels deeper than the breath itself. Breathing feels like a gentle return from stillness. Stillness feels primary. There is no further layer to release. Release is complete. You are suspended inside equilibrium that does not fluctuate. Nothing changes. Nothing needs to. Breath continues. Slow, even, pause wide and unbroken. Awareness rests without effort. Without intention, without boundary, presence remains steady, diffused, balanced. There is no identity attached to posture, no identity attached to place, no sense of occupying space, only steady being. The rhythm beneath the ribs continues quietly, unhurried, unbroken. Breath aligns with it, pause widens around it. There is no direction to move, no level to reach, no descent to manage. Depth has spread evenly across everything. Breath slows once more. Exhale lengthens to its narrowest edge. Pause opens fully and holds. You remain there without anticipation of the inhale. Then inhale returns gently as though from far below thought. Your awareness feels softer still, less contained, less personal. There is no boundary to guard, no structure to maintain. Only steadiness, only rhythm, only continuation. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide and uninterrupted. The pause now feels larger than awareness itself. Breathing moves inside it quietly. There is no impulse to wake, no impulse to shift, no impulse to hold on. The center remains warm and steady, heartbeat consistent, breath consistent, time absent. Nothing progresses, nothing shifts. Everything continues, balanced, even, complete. And within that completeness, you remain, outline softened beyond definition, awareness thinned into quiet presence, breath autonomous, heartbeat steady, no longer oriented to body, no longer oriented to space, simply suspended inside equilibrium that sustains itself. Without effort, without fluctuation, without requiring you to remain conscious of it at all. The rhythm continues without variation. There is no shift in pace, no shift in depth, only sustained quiet. Breath moves gently. Inhale soft and sufficient, exhale longer. The pause opens again, familiar and wide. You remain inside it as though it has always been there. There is no effort required to stay. Awareness feels lighter still, less anchored to sensation, less anchored to identity, not absent, simply loosened. The sense of I becomes faint, not erased, less defined. Presence remains without center. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide and steady. The pause no longer feels like an interval. It feels like the ground of everything. Breathing rises and falls within it quietly. There is no impulse to follow the inhale, no impulse to lengthen the exhale. Breath regulates itself. The body remains unburdened. No weight to manage, no posture to maintain, no boundary to guard. Awareness does not travel. It does not expand. It rests, soft, even, continuous. Thought does not form fully now. When a fragment appears, it dissolves before meaning attaches to it. Language no longer holds. There is only rhythm, breath, pause, breath again. The steady warmth at the center remains unchanged. Heartbeat calm beneath it. Nothing accelerates, nothing diminishes. Stillness does not deepen. It sustains. Breath slows once more. Exhale stretches thin. Pause opens fully and holds without edge. You remain suspended there, not drifting away, not returning, simply continuing inside steadiness that neither rises nor falls, balanced without effort, present without outline, resting inside a quiet that carries itself forward without requiring anything from you at all. Nothing needs to happen now. The steadiness you are resting inside continues without change. Breath moves softly on its own. Inhale light and quiet. Exhale longer. The pause opens and holds. You remain there without effort. The inhale returns gently as though it rises from somewhere deeper than awareness. Your outline feels softer still, less defined, less necessary. Presence remains, but edges no longer matter. There is no need to locate yourself, no need to confirm position. Balance continues without supervision. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens and thins. The pause widens further. You rest inside that pause without tracking time. Time does not move here. It loosens, it thins, it becomes rhythm alone. Breath, pause, breath again. The sense of body grows quieter, not fading, becoming abstract. Hands exist somewhere beyond attention. Feet no longer register as contact. There is no surface to confirm, support is assumed. The center of the chest remains warm and steady. Heartbeat calm beneath it, even, unhurried. Breath and heartbeat align into one gentle cadence. Thought grows softer. When it appears, it drifts away before meaning attaches. There is no story forming, no sequence, only presence. Breath cycles again. Inhale slow, exhale longer. Pause wide and complete. The pause feels like home now. Familiar, open. Breathing moves inside it like a quiet tide. Your awareness feels lighter, less anchored to identity, less attached to outline. There is no need to hold on to anything. Nothing is slipping away. Nothing is required. Breath slows further. Exhale stretches thin. Pause deepens. For a moment, breathing feels distant. Then inhale returns softly. You are not managing breath. Breath is managing itself. Awareness drifts without direction. Not outward, not inward, simply softening. There is no edge to hold, no boundary to guard. Presence remains steady, diffuse, balanced. The rhythm beneath the ribs continues quietly, unbroken. The nervous system rests fully regulated, no vigilance, no readiness, no subtle alertness, only calm continuity. Breath cycles again. Inhale quiet. Exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause now feels longer than the breath itself. Breathing is the smaller motion. Stillness is the larger field. Your outline softens again. Less distinction between center and edge. Less distinction between inside and outside. Not dissolving, integrating. Breath slows once more. Exhale narrows to its finest thread. Pause opens fully. You remain there without anticipation. Then inhale returns gently. Your awareness feels almost transparent, not gone, lightened. There is no pressure anywhere in the body, no subtle holding, no effort to remain upright. Posture sustains itself beyond awareness. There is no sense of location, no here, no elsewhere, only continuation. Breath, pause, breath again. The rhythm remains steady. Time has no contour. Moments do not accumulate, they merge. Your sense of identity softens slightly. Not erased, less defined. The need to think has faded. The need to respond has faded. There is nothing to solve, nothing to remember, nothing to anticipate. Breath cycles again. Inhale slow. Exhale longer. Pause wide and quiet. The pause feels deeper now, not heavier, more complete. There is no further descent to reach. Drift has already begun. It continues without effort. Your awareness feels suspended, balanced without direction, held without confinement. Breathing moves quietly within that suspension. There is no impulse to wake, no impulse to shift, no impulse to return to thought. The center remains warm and steady, heartbeat consistent, breath consistent. Nothing fluctuates, nothing escalates, nothing fades. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens. Pause opens fully and remains open. You rest there without counting, without tracking, without intention. Then inhale returns softly. Your outline is almost irrelevant now. Presence remains, edges blurred beyond importance. There is no boundary left to maintain, no posture left to monitor, no structure left to remember, only steady rhythm, only quiet continuity. Breath cycles again. Inhale. Exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause feels like the ground of everything. Breathing rises and falls within it. You remain suspended inside steadiness that carries itself forward, balanced without effort, diffused without loss, present without definition. There is no need to fall asleep. Sleep approaches on its own. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide and uninterrupted. And within that widening pause, you remain, awareness softened beyond structure, identity loosened beyond edge, breath autonomous, heartbeat steady, resting quietly inside a calm that no longer requires attention at all. The rhythm continues without interruption. There is no change in pace, no change in depth, only sustained quiet. Breath moves gently. Inhale light, exhale longer. The pause opens again, wide and steady. You remain inside it without noticing when it began. Awareness feels softer still, less scented, less personal, not gone, unclaimed. There is no need to identify where you are in the body, no need to identify the body at all. Presence remains, but location fades. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer. Pause wide and complete. The pause feels deeper than before, not darker, not heavier, simply deeper. Breathing moves inside it like a slow tide that no longer reaches a shore. There is no edge to meet, no return point. Thought does not gather. When a fragment begins, it loosens before meaning forms. Language thins, identity thins, attention thins, breath remains, heartbeat remains, everything else quiets. The center stays warm and even, nothing accelerates, nothing pulls, nothing calls you back, breath slows again. Exhale stretches to its narrowest thread. Pause opens and holds without effort. You remain there, not drifting away, not arriving anywhere, simply continuing inside a softness that requires nothing from you. The inhale returns softly. Awareness feels almost transparent now, not asleep, not awake, balanced between breath, pause, breath again. And the space between breaths grows wider than thought itself, carrying you gently forward into quiet that deepens without announcement, without instruction, without any need to remain aware of it at all. There is nothing left to hold. The steadiness continues on its own. Breath moves softly, almost unnoticed. Inhale light, exhale longer. The pause opens and remains. You are already resting inside it. The inhale returns quietly without signal. Awareness feels thinner now, less gathered, less scented. The sense of being located somewhere softens, not erased, unnecessary. Breath continues. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause stretches gently as though it is not a space between breaths but the ground beneath them. Breathing moves within it like something small and distant. Your outline feels abstract. Not gone, not defined, just present without edges. Hands do not register clearly. Feet do not register clearly. There is no impulse to confirm contact. Support exists without sensation. Thought begins to loosen further. When it rises, it does not complete itself. A fragment forms, then thins, then disappears. There is no need to follow it. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer. Pause wide and deep. The pause feels slightly heavier now, not weight, depth. You rest inside it without effort. The inhale returns as if from below awareness. The center remains warm and steady. Heartbeat even, unhurried. Breath and heartbeat move together, but even that rhythm feels distant. You do not need to listen to it. It continues without you. Awareness drifts, not outward, not inward. Sideways, as though attention no longer has direction. There is no environment to reference, no body to adjust, only continuity. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens and narrows. Pause widens further. For a moment, breathing feels almost suspended. then inhale returns gently. The sense of identity softens another layer. There is less you attached to sensation, less you attached to breathe, presence remains. Ownership fades. Thought fragments grow shorter. A single image may begin, it does not complete. A phrase may begin, it dissolves before it forms. Language loses grip, breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide and complete. The pause feels like the larger field now. Breathing is the small movement within it. Your awareness flickers slightly. Not wakefulness, not sleep. A soft in between. There is no need to choose, no need to descend. Descent is already happening. Breath slows again. Exhale stretches thin. Pause opens fully. You remain inside that pause long enough that the inhale feels optional. Then it returns softly. Your outline is almost irrelevant now, not dissolved, not required. Presence continues without form. The center remains steady, heartbeat calm, but even that rhythm feels distant, like something heard from another room. You do not need to focus. Breath moves quietly. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels spacious enough to disappear inside, and for a moment, awareness does. Then it returns lightly without weight. Thought attempts to gather and does not succeed. A fragment appears, it drifts, it fades. No narrative holds, no memory anchors, no anticipation forms. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide and deep. The pause is now longer than the breath itself. Breathing feels secondary. Stillness feels primary. Your awareness slips briefly into blankness, not sleep, not conscious thought, a gap. Then breathe resumes. Awareness returns softly. No effort required. The boundary between being awake and not being awake grows thinner. Breath slows again. Exhale narrows. Pause opens and holds. You remain there without tracking, without measuring, without identifying the moment. Then inhale returns, gentle, unforced. Your sense of time dissolves completely. There is no sequence. Only repetition without memory. Breath, pause, breath again. The rhythm beneath the ribs continues, but it feels far away now. Distant and steady, secure. You do not need to remain with it, it carries itself. Awareness thins further. Moments of blankness lengthen, short gaps, then breathe, then gap again. Nothing demands return, nothing calls you back. Breath cycles once more. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels like darkness without color. Not heavy, not empty, simply quiet. And within that quiet, awareness flickers gently. A soft dimming. Then breathe resumes. The body remains unburdened. No posture to hold, no identity to protect, only gentle continuation. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens to its narrowest thread. Pause opens completely. You remain there longer than before, then inhale returns faintly, almost unnoticed. Thought no longer gathers at all. Images do not complete. Language does not form, there is only rhythm. Breath, pause, breath again. And between those breaths, longer stretches of nothing. Not absence, not presence. A soft drift between. You remain suspended there, not choosing sleep, not resisting it, simply allowing awareness to dim in small increments, each pause widening, each inhale softer, until the space between breaths becomes larger than thought, larger than identity, and quiet carries you forward without requiring anything. From you at all, there is no effort left. Breath continues quietly. Inhale light and almost distant, exhale longer. The pause opens and remains, you are already inside it. The inhale returns softly without instruction. Awareness feels dimmer now, not gone, lowered, like a lamp turned gently down. Breath moves again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels wider than before, not heavier, just wider. Breathing rises and falls inside it slowly. Your outline no longer feels important, not erased, just irrelevant. There is no need to confirm the body, no need to confirm position. Balance sustains itself somewhere beyond attention. Thought has grown faint. When something begins to form, it drifts apart before completing. A shape of language appears. It dissolves. There is no need to follow it. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide and quiet. The pause feels like a soft blankness, not empty, not dark, simply unoccupied. You remain there without tracking. The inhale returns gently. Awareness slips slightly during the pause, a brief dimming. Then breathe resumes. You do not need to return fully. There is no demand for clarity. The center remains steady, heartbeat calm beneath it, unhurried, even, but it feels distant now, not separate, distant. Breath continues. Inhale light, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause stretches longer than the breath itself. For a moment, breathing feels optional. Then it resumes softly. Your sense of identity loosens further, not erased, less solid, less central. There is no narrative holding you in place, no thought anchoring awareness, only repetition without memory. Breath, pause, breath again. During the pause, awareness dims slightly. A soft fade. Then inhale brings a gentle return, not fully, just enough. There is no need to remain present. Drift is safe. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens into a fine thread. Pause opens wide and holds. You rest inside it longer than before, long enough that the inhale feels like a quiet surprise. It arrives without effort. Thought no longer forms sentences, only fragments, a flicker, a blur, then nothing. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide and deep. The pause feels like a cushion. You sink into it gently. There is no resistance, no impulse to stay alert. The boundary between awake and not awake thins further. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. Awareness flickers during the pause, a brief absence. Then inhale returns and you are faintly aware again, less distinct, less defined. The center remains warm and steady, heartbeat constant. But even that feels quieter, more distant. You do not need to follow it. Breath moves again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause now feels longer than the inhale, longer than the exhale. It stretches gently. During that stretch, thought does not appear. Identity does not appear. There is only softness. Then breathe resumes. Awareness returns lightly. No sharpness, no clarity, just presence. Faint. Breath slows once more. Exhale narrows. Pause opens and holds. You remain there without measure. Then inhale returns softly, as if from far away. The sense of body is nearly abstract now. Not gone, unnecessary. Presence remains, edges gone, breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels like a field without horizon, not large, not small, simply continuous. You drift inside it gently. Nothing calls you back. Nothing requires your attention. Breath continues quietly. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause deepens, awareness dims, a longer gap this time, then inhale returns. Gentle, unforced. There is no need to wake inside it, no need to stay with the breath. It moves whether you notice or not. Thought has faded almost entirely. No images hold, no language forms, only rhythm remains. Breath, pause, breath again. During the pause, you slip further. Not falling, not moving, just softening. The center remains steady, heartbeat consistent, but you do not attend to it. It continues without you. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens to its narrowest edge. Pause opens completely. You remain there longer than before, long enough that awareness almost disappears. Then inhale returns faintly, and you return with it, but only partially. Dim, soft, unclaimed. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause now feels like home. Breathing feels like a visitor. Stillness feels primary. There is no impulse to think, no impulse to move, no impulse to hold anything together. Everything continues without your effort. Breath, pause, breath again. And between those breaths, longer and longer stretches of quiet, where awareness softens, identity thins, and you drift gently towards sleep. without needing to decide, without needing to notice, simply carried by rhythm that no longer requires you to remain awake inside it at all. The rhythm does not change. It does not need to. Breath moves quietly. Inhale light and distant. Exhale longer. The pause opens again and holds. You remain there without noticing when it began. Awareness dims slightly more during the pause, not sleep, not waking. A soft in between, then inhale returns gently. You do not return fully with it, only partially. Faint, thought no longer attempts full shape. A fragment rises and dissolves. No image holds long enough to matter. No word completes itself. Breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer. Pause wide, the pause stretches further now. Long enough that you forget the inhale is coming. Then it arrives softly, unannounced. The sense of time disappears completely. There is no memory of the previous breath, no anticipation of the next. Only this one, then pause, then another. Awareness slips again during the pause, a deeper dimming, a brief absence. Then breathe resumes and you return slightly. Less than before, the body feels distant, not separate. Distant, presence remains without center. Breath slows again. Exhale narrows, pause opens and lingers. You remain there longer than seems possible. Then inhale returns faintly, almost unnoticed. There is no effort anywhere, no impulse to hold on to clarity, no need to remain aware. The pause widens once more, and within it, awareness softens so gently that it feels like nothing at all. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. And between those breaths, longer stretches of quiet settle in where thought no longer forms, identity no longer gathers, and you drift gently, steadily into sleep without needing to recognize the moment it happens. There is no final movement, no threshold to cross. Breath continues quietly. Inhale soft and almost weightless. Exhale longer. The pause opens and holds. You are already resting inside it. The inhale returns faintly. Awareness feels dim now, lowered to a quiet ember. Not bright, not dark, simply softened. Breath moves again. Inhale, exhale longer. Pause wide. The pause stretches gently. You remain there without noticing when it began. During that pause, awareness thins further. Not erased, not active, just quiet. Then breathe returns. You do not return fully with it, only enough. Thought does not gather. No image completes. A trace of something begins and fades before meaning attaches. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer. Pause wide and open. The pause feels like a field without edge, not large, not small, simply unbounded. You rest there without effort. The inhale arrives quietly as though from far away. Awareness flickers with it, then dims again. Breath slows, exhale narrows to a thin thread. Pause opens and holds longer this time, long enough that breathing feels distant. Then inhale returns faintly. You are present only slightly. The sense of body is abstract now, not gone, unnecessary. Presence remains without boundary. Breath continues, inhale. Exhale longer, pause wide. The pause feels deeper than the breath itself. Breathing is the small movement inside something much larger. During the pause, awareness slips, a longer blankness, then breathe resumes, and you return only partially. Less defined, less gathered, time has dissolved entirely. There is no previous breath, no next breath. Only this one, then pause, then another. Breath cycles again. Inhale soft, exhale longer, pause wide and deep. The pause stretches wide enough that awareness nearly disappears. Then inhale returns. Gentle, unforced. You do not gather yourself. You remain loose. Thought does not attempt language. There are no sentences forming, only softness. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. During the pause, there is almost nothing. No image, no identity, no awareness of waiting. Then inhale returns faintly, and you drift back just enough to continue breathing. The rhythm remains steady, unhurried, unbroken, but even the rhythm feels distant now. Breath slows again. Exhale lengthens to its narrowest edge. Pause opens completely. You remain there long enough that awareness slips almost entirely away. Then inhale returns softly. You do not wake with it. You barely notice it. Presence is faint. Diffuse, unclaimed, breath cycles again. Inhale, exhale longer, pause wide. The pause deepens further. There is no effort to remain awake, no effort to surrender. Surrender has already happened. During the pause, awareness dims almost to nothing, a soft blankness. Then inhale returns quietly, less distinct. Breath continues, slow, even. Pause wide and spacious. The pause now feels endless. Breathing moves inside it like a distant tide. You are not following it, it moves whether you notice or not. Thought has fully loosened. No fragments now, no shapes, only rhythm, breath, pause, breath again. During the pause, longer and longer stretches of quiet settle in. Awareness thins to a faint glow, then dims, then flickers, then dims again. Breath resumes without needing you. Heartbeat continues without attention. Everything carries itself. There is no sense of location, no sense of identity, no sense of being awake or asleep, only gentle continuation. Breath slows once more. Exhale stretches thin. Pause opens fully. You remain there longer than before, long enough that awareness disappears completely. Then inhale returns softly, barely noticed. And this time, awareness does not fully return. It remains faint, diffuse, unfocused. Breath cycles again. Inhale light, exhale longer. Pause wide, the pause holds. And within that hold, there is nothing to maintain, nothing to release, nothing to observe, only quiet, only softness. Only continuation without awareness attached to it. Breath continues, slow, even, pause wide. And between those breaths, long, unbroken stretches of stillness settle gently in. No thought, no image, no sense of self gathering. Only dimming, only soft descent. Only the widening pause, breath slows further. Exhale lengthens and dissolves into stillness. Pause opens without edge. You remain there, unclaimed, unburdened, ungathered. Then inhale returns softly, but this time it feels like a distant echo. Faint, barely forming. Awareness flickers and does not fully rise. The rhythm continues, without you needing to witness it, without you needing to follow it. Breath, pause, breath again, longer quiet between each, and then longer still, until the pause becomes the only thing that remains. And within that widening pause, awareness thins to silence. Thought does not return, identity does not return. Only softness remains, only continuation without witness. Only sleep arriving quietly, without effort, without moment, without a final thought to mark its beginning. And if awareness lingers for a breath or two longer, that is fine. Breath will carry you. The pause will widen again, and you will drift quietly, gently, naturally into sleep. Its geometry holds, its atmosphere holds, its light holds. You do not need to follow it, you are already within it. The night gathers, the quiet holds, and the rest will carry itself.